Welcome back to the Skulldog channel. My name is Graves. It's been easily a handful of weeks since I've posted anything on my YouTube channel. Um, Basically, life gets in the way if you let it. I had kind of a flu for a few days. I had a period of about a week and a half where my depression was just kicking my butt and I couldn't find the energy or the effort to do much of anything. Um, Depression, yay, what fun. And then for most of last week, we had no power. And vlogging takes a real quick backseat to having to do your laundry in a laundromat instead of in your nice cozy basement. And well, that's where you used to charge your cell phone, and that's where you used to go get warm because your house has no heat and it's approaching about, I think it got down to about 10 or 12 degrees outside. Not a whole lot of fun. But basically, not to dwell on it, but life gets in the way if you let it. But eventually, life will have to let you get back to normal, I guess. So, back to the project, back to the vlogs, things like that. First, you may notice, cleaned off my workbench. The 3D printer that isn't going to be is definitely not. I disassembled it all. And I shot a video of that. We'll see if my video editing skills will let me do a quick little time lapse or speed up of a video here. If nothing just happened, ignore it, move along. Just, I didn't say anything, you can't prove it. Move along. Or you just saw a cool little time lapse. We'll see. But again, to move on, move forward. This is one of the first masks I've been able to completely print and adhere together. It originally started as a Pepakura file from way back, at least a couple of years back. I really don't know where it came from. I am fairly certain it came from a video game of some kind, but what one, I don't know. I don't know where I downloaded it. I didn't keep notes on every Pepakura file I ever downloaded, so I wish I could attribute it and thank whoever made the original file because it turned into a pretty decent 3D printed file, but I have no idea who. So, thank you, random internet stranger who also likes Pepakura and masks. Yeah, well. Okay, so in order to get to this, I started off with, well, as you can see, about 4 pieces of mask. And I did a quick, not very scientific test on a handful of pieces of PLA, mostly using PLA at this point in time because it's a lot easier to print with than ABS. It doesn't have the stink, the odor of ABS. I've tried with PETG a few times. I've gotten it to kind of work, but it's still giving me some grief. So for now, sticking with the PLA. But in order to complete a project, then I have to be able to, well, glue it together, maybe smooth it out, rough in some details, things like that. Being in Southeast Michigan, in order to use standard methods of like fiberglass resins, Bondo, things like that, you need a well-ventilated area. I have a basement workshop. I don't have a well-ventilated area to do that in. I tried it inside once and never again because, man, the place just stank for days. So, no, this is not a good well-ventilated space. Which means, okay, well, then you just do it outside. Southeast Michigan. In February, it was 70. Now we're in March, and we're back down to temperatures in the teens and 20s. I cannot accurately predict that, hey, I'm going to get a layer of Bondo on today, smooth it out, and then tomorrow I'll put a second layer on because Today it's 75, 80 degrees, perfect Bondo temperature. Tomorrow it might be 50 degrees or 100 degrees. You really can't tell. So what I've been doing is I've been trying to find non-toxic, easier to use, hopefully not too expensive, indoor alternatives to fiberglass resins, Bondos, things like that. That they work great, and when I can use them, I probably will. But it's nice to be able to come down to my workshop whenever the heck I feel like it and work on something and not have to worry about what the weather's going to be like over the next few days, so I can maybe do this out in front of the garage. Yeah. That's a fairly long way of saying, here's what I've been working on. I printed out these pieces. This is actually two pieces that have been glued together, curved on one side, flat on the other. I just wanted to see how some various glues and adhesives and a few smoothing techniques would work. So I started off with 3 of each, and the first one, PVC cement. There's an ingredient in this, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the chemical name, that PLA plastic is fairly similar on a chemical basis to PVC plastic. There's an ingredient in this that acts the same way acetone does on ABS. It melts it a little bit, molds it a little bit, so you can stick them together and it almost becomes one adhered piece rather than 2 pieces glued together. And also that same ingredient is supposed to work as a smoothing agent if you let it kind of aerosolize. I know that's not a real word, I understand that. Moving on. Words escape me at the moment, but basically you can use it in the same vapor form as, again, as acetone is to ABS. This stuff is supposed to be for PLA. I used it to adhere the two together. It stinks. It is a nasty chemical, acrid smell that I do not want to mess around with in my enclosed environment here. Plus, even more so than acetone, this stuff is seriously flammable. So to use it in a vapor form increases its flammability. So smoothing with this, adhering with this, and all that, not really going to happen. I'm not throwing it out as a possibility. If I have a couple of larger pieces that I really need stuck together, I can probably do this outside and avoid, well, the whole fire and explosion thing, or the nasty, stinky basement thing. Either one. So, PVC cement works really well to adhere the pieces together, has a few drawbacks. Probably won't be seeing this a whole lot in my future. Second, for adhering, 5-minute epoxy. You can get it in Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, any decent store. Works really well. Little tiny bit stinky, little tricky to work with the mixing and the curing times and all that. But 5 minutes set, not bad. Little has a few drawbacks, but not bad. I'll probably be using this and a combination of Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue works and sticks this stuff together, sticks PLA together pretty darn good. And again, readily available, not too expensive, no nasty odors. I've got 2 or 3 parts over there gluing together right now. Can't smell a thing. So I will probably mostly be using Gorilla Glue, at least as far as sticking 2 pieces of PLA together. Which moves on to the smoothing side of things. I love the texture of PLA and 3D printed parts, but sometimes you want a smooth, professional looking part. The PVC cement was supposed to kind of do a vapor smooth sort of thing. And again, as I discussed, Not trying that. No, just didn't work. So what I moved on to from the internets, Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty. Um, very easy to use. Very simple process. Basically, you take a little bit of this, you add a little bit of water to the right kind of consistency you're looking for, and then you just smooth it on with your fingers. Maybe wear some gloves, but it's really simple. It's really basic. No odors, no nothing. And in the right circumstances, this may still prove useful, but I adhered it on to this, the curved side, and it feels really nice. It feels like it's smooth out. It's supposed to be a wood filler, so wood, slightly porous. Maybe it seeps in a little bit more. As soon as I started sanding it, it started flaking off. I'll try this again at some point with maybe a couple of coats of filler primer on and then the water putty. Maybe that would give it a surface that it could stick to, but plain PLA, water putty, didn't do a good enough job. But the consistency, the workability, I'm not giving up on it just yet. But for now, wood filler. This has been recommended. Oops. This has been recommended in a handful of online tutorials and videos and things like that. And I tried it once before on something and I wasn't hugely impressed. Then I saw a couple more videos where it said, oh yeah, just wet your fingers down, dip them in some water, and then smooth it out. And that little tip right there of just wet your fingers down a little bit, fantastic advice. This stuff smooths out so much easier, works so much easier, and what I'll try to do is, if this doesn't show up real well, I'll try to throw in a couple of still shots. This stuff went into the cracks and crevices, the print lines, stuck in there and smoothed out nicely. No flaking, no peeling, really easy to use, really easy to work with, and honestly, with about, squeezes out like toothpaste, with maybe an inch and a half line total, I'll be able to smooth this down, and this will be a nice looking part. Granted, it's not actually intended to be anything. So, combination of the Gorilla Glue or the epoxy and the wood filler putty, real nice results on basic PLA. Now, it's wood filler over PLA. This is not going to give you the strength of a motorcycle helmet or body armor or anything like that. But it'll look pretty cool. And with most cosplay, most props, most reproductions, that's what you're going for. I want to make some masks and helmets that I can put around my workshop, hang up in my house, or show to friends or whatever. This will work for that. You want to make a set of Skyrim armor and take it into battle when the zombie apocalypse happens? Not going to work so good for that. For display purposes, this works. So, over the next week or so, I hope to be using the wood filler and some sandpaper and maybe smoothing this out. Hopefully getting to a point where I can paint it up. It mostly fits. It's kind of narrow this way, and I got kind of a fat head that way. Some of that is probably my gluing techniques. Because of the curve of the parts, I couldn't use clips or clamps or anything like that, so I wound up masking tape. Holds PLA together reasonably well, but not as sturdy as you'd really hope. So I'm going to work on that. I've got a couple of ideas I'm going to try out. I've already printed all the parts to an upgraded version of this. In case you haven't heard it since watching any of my last videos, my philosophy as far as props and workshop and stuff like that is design, refine, and repeat until you have a working product. This is close. This is at the refine stage of things. I'm going to take the learning curve I get off of this and apply it to the next one and keep on going. So, kind of a lengthy little video in comparison to some of my other ones, or at least it feels that way as I'm sitting here recording it. Just kind of wanted to update you on the situation, show you my progress with some of the projects. We'll go from there and see you next time. Have a good day. I don't know what I just tried to say there, but I'll see you next time if you continue watching after I keep on flubbing the lines. So, bye.